What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Got Next podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Baldwin, with my co-host, Donovan Moore.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. NFL season. What a time.
We got Ben and Bones Nate Ash with the cutoff shirt, the sleeveless. Talk to him, B.
We missed you guys last week. We won't be absent again during the football week. I promise.
No, for sure. We're gonna make up for it this week, man. We're looking forward to week 2. Not a whole lot happened in week 1, but we'll make sure to touch on it as we go. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that type of stuff, and visit the socials at the God Next Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And without further ado, man, we're gonna go ahead and get into the intro.
3-pointers. Outside jumper for 3 at the buzzer.
All righty. So tomorrow night, week 2 will be getting kicked off, man, with the Bills at the Dolphins, man. B, you can go ahead and get us started, man. How do you feel about this matchup?
Man, I think it's a great matchup. I think the Bills, obviously, ever since Tom Brady left the AFC East, have dominated that division, and the Dolphins have really never been a match for them. But like we've talked about in previous episodes, the Bills pretty much revamped their team around Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. It's a completely new team. I actually had the Cardinals as my upset pick last week, but the Bills held strong and came back. And Josh Allen actually looked like he was, played mistake-free ball, unlike he did when he had Stephon Diggs and those cats. But week 2 early on, I'm going to give it to the more talented team for right now, which is the Dolphins. I could be eating those words in a couple nights, but I just think week 2, the Dolphins kind of have more of their team together. They've been playing together for longer. So I think they finally, snapped their terrible streak against the Bills and get a rare dub against them.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Dolphins as well. Usually the Bills struggle when they play in Miami. I think a couple years ago it came down to a 2-point conversion or something like that. The Dolphins, their offense didn't have an as expected game against Jacksonville week 1, so I think they might be a little more locked in this week. I think Jalen Waddle might have a big game coming up against Buffalo tomorrow night. So I'm gonna take the Dolphins as well. I think their offense will bounce back. Their defense plays strong week 1, so I think this is the time their offense catches up, and I think they'll beat Buffalo.
I like being different, guys. I like it when we split it up on this show. Going with the Bills, man. Look, Tua Tagovailoa is 1-6 versus the Bills in his career so far. He does not have a good record against them. And last year, the Dolphins, they were riding the highest of highs. They had just beat the Broncos 70 to whatever it was. I can't remember what the score was, right? B knows the score. Go ahead, B, give me the score.
70-20 before they got whacked in Buffalo. Yeah.
There you go, 70-20, right? The very next week, how good can you feel about yourself after a 70-20 victory, right? The very next week, you get killed. You get curb stomped. 48-20 against this Bills team, but they did have Stephon Diggs. I will say that. But after week 1, Keon Coleman looked pretty good. Khalil Shakir, man, looking athletic out there, making some plays. I don't know if I can pick the Dolphins here. And I hate to say, it's a divisional matchup. So later on, I definitely don't see the Dolphins winning that matchup either in Buffalo, because how they get when it's cold outside, fellas. So I'm rocking with the Bills this week. I have not seen the Dolphins beat a legit playoff contender yet, really, honestly. So, I'm rocking with them, rocking with the Bills. I don't think they're going to get that done this week. Next up, we got the Raiders and the Ravens. I don't think this is going to take us a long time, fellas.
No, I think we all know where we're heading here. The Raiders did not look good last week. The Gardner Minshew is not a good QB in this league. I think it's an insult to Ryan Fitzpatrick for those who call him the next Fitzpatrick, because he is not even that good. So we'll move on after this.
All righty. So next up, I feel like we can kind of decide this one pretty quickly too, even though Harbaugh's there. The Chargers technically have a rookie, man. Is it enough, or are you going to pick the Panthers in this one?
No, I think the fact that the Chargers actually have a competent coach, like the old Brandon Staley Chargers, we could talk about this game for 5 minutes. But since I think the Chargers set a coach at right now and they have a good quarterback, I think they can probably get by the Panthers.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chargers as well. You can see the improvements already with the Chargers, especially in the trenches. Their run game got going very well last week, albeit it was against the Raiders, but they're going against a similar type team with not that great of a defense and probably not as great of pass rushers as the Raiders have in the Panthers. So I think the Chargers will dominate the ground game. Khalil Mack probably get a couple sacks here. I think the Chargers will win. It may not be close.
Yeah, I don't know if this one's going to necessarily be close either. I mean, all the hope that you could have had in the Carolina Panthers coming in had to have subsided about halftime from last week. Nasty, absolutely nasty work. Panthers fans are ready to riot. Bryce Young he's like 3 more weeks until they're calling for his job. So let's hope for some better play from him. Next up, my old team, man, the Saints and the Cowboys. I'm not going to go here though because this has nothing to do with me. B. Go ahead. Tell me your pick.
Well, we know how the Cowboys usually are in the regular season. Can they go 12-5 4 years in a row? I looked at their schedule after they had that decisive Week 1 win that I didn't think they were going to have, actually. I thought the Browns were going to win, but we'll get to them later. But, Cowboys the last 3 years been the same story. All they've done since they, got rid of Jason Garrett and replaced him with Mike McCarthy have been a way more consistent regular season team, which makes it all that more heartbreaking in the playoffs. But the Saints in Week 2 aren't that team to break their heart. I know, their fans are probably hype about them, destroying the Panthers. I'll remind you, last year, the Saints actually also destroyed the Falcons in the last game of the year last year. So the Saints will take care of those teams in their division that are worse than them, but they're not as good as the Cowboys. I mean, I'm not trying to put too much respect on Dak's name, but he's better than Derek Carr. You know what I mean? And he usually takes care of the quarterbacks who he's better than. And the Cowboys take care of the teams that they're better than at home in the regular season. They usually do not lose.
For sure. I definitely agree with that last point you said, B. Dallas at home. I'm sure it's like a 1 o'clock game. Their defense definitely came to play last week against Cleveland. I think they'll have a similar performance against the Saints. I think they'll force a couple turnovers, set their offense up. I expect CeeDee Lamb to get a touchdown or have a solid game this week against New Orleans. So I'm going to take Dallas at home here. I think it'll be a fairly easy game for them again.
Yeah, not really one that I felt like we needed to go around about. The Cowboys, man. I did have the Browns beating them last week, but unfortunately, I did forget the Cowboys are really good in the regular season. So that's my fault. I got to wait till later in the season. But, there is an Arizona Cardinals type of loss coming up. I will say that. It is on the horizon, but it won't happen this week. Next matchup, we got the Bucs and the Lions. Now, these were two pretty decent looking offenses from last week. So Bennett, tell me what you think, man.
It's kind of interesting how the Lions season started against the two teams who they beat in the playoffs last year. Last week it was the Rams, who they played in the first round of the playoffs. They had a very close game against them in the playoffs, and they had a really close game against them in Week 1. And they didn't play their best, honestly. They had a 17-3 lead, and with a team like the Lions, who have a great O-line and a great running game, you'd think they hold on to that lead. But the Rams were tough. They came back. But at the end of the day, the Lions got it done, kind of like they did last year. And I think they're a better team than the Bucs. I know Baker's, kind of a comeback player in this league, and based on where he was when he got the, Carolina, I don't think we saw this Baker ever being, this relevant again. But so kudos to him. Kudos to Todd Bowles. Everyone thought he was washed as a coach when he went 8-9 with Tom Brady. But the Bucs, look like a half decent team now, so I'll give them their credit. But they're not as good as the Lions. The Lions are really competing for a championship this year, while the Bucs are just competing to win their division again, which I think they will actually. But I think they have a tough week ahead of them in Detroit.
Yeah, the Bucs did look very solid last week, but not trying to discredit their performance or anything. It was against a Washington team that's under a lot of change and things like that. So it'll be nice to see if Baker can keep up that consistent level of play for another week here. But the Lions have made a lot of improvements to their defense. They'll be at home with a fan base that's just been starving for good football. So they finally have that now. I think the Lions will win this week, and I think Amon-Ra will bounce back and have a very solid game. I think he'll score this week as well. He was fairly quiet against the Rams. I think he'll bounce back against the Bucs in Week 2, and I like the Lions at home.
Yeah, I definitely think I'm going to go with the Lions here. I just think that they have the overall better team. I do think it has the potential to be a high-scoring affair. And just shout out to Mike Evans, man, for just still being solid after when he drafted like 10, 11 years ago. It's just crazy, bro. So shout out to Mike Evans, man. Next matchup, we have the Colts versus the Packers. Packers at home. They lost their starting QB last week. Malik Willis under center. Talk to me, B. Are they winning this matchup?
Yeah, well, I think, with Jordan Love being out for possibly 4 weeks, I think, those analysts who had the Packers winning the division at the end of the year, these next 4 games are, I think, going to bite them for sure. I think if you're a Lions fan, you're really happy right now. And I think I already said the team who comes in last place in this division is going to be the second best last place team behind whoever comes last in the AFC North. So competitive division. But this is bad for the Packers, man. I think the Colts take this one. I don't think Malik Willis can lead them to a victory. The Colts are also hungry. They lost a very close matchup to the division rival Texans in Week 1, and they, see themselves being a potential wild card team this year, division winner possibly if the ball goes rolling their way. So I think the Colts take this one. AR showed off his arm talent last week, and while he still made some mistakes, not sure what he's going to turn out to be. I think they have the team to go into Green Bay and catch a dub in Week 2.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts as well. They really took it down to the wire versus the Texans last week. They had a few turnovers, and I believe it was a 2-point game. So those turnovers really make all the difference if you look down to it. I think Anthony Richardson, as long as he stays healthy, he could be a very, very solid player, especially with his coach. They have a system that's tailored to him. Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. They have good weapons on the outside. So I like that Colts team. And then Malik Willis under center for the Packers. We haven't seen much from him so far in his NFL career, so there's no point to expect anything of him just yet. I'm going to go with the Colts as well.
Yeah, I'm going to easily go with the Colts here. I think that I've liked AR since he got drafted. I was talking about last year, even in fantasy, when we were talking about stuff. I was like, I think like with him being such an unknown guy coming into the draft, and like really anything can happen, and I feel like he's kind of fully stepped into that. Biggest thing with him, like Donald said, is just him being healthy. But as long as he's healthy, they have a chance every week. And without Jordan Love, the Packers do not. So going with the Colts. Next up, we got the Browns and the Jags. Talk to me, B.
The battle of the Clemson QBs here. And both of them, are in jeopardy of being I don't want to call Deshaun Watson a bust because he had good years in Houston, but, I mean, definitely he's looking like a bust after that contract. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars here. Deshaun Watson, still having a couple problems off the field, and on the field he is just not returned to the type of player he was in Houston. So I think the Browns are in a bad spot right now. I think it cannot get much worse for them, and especially that they had a couple linemen out against Dallas. Deshaun was not getting protected well, and he missed a couple wide open receivers too. I trust Trevor Lawrence to bounce back more than I trust Deshaun Watson to. And I think, therefore, the Jaguars being at home also, I think that factors into it. And I don't think they played all that badly in Miami last week. They just couldn't maintain the lead that they had early on. So I think the Jaguars go to 1-1 and defeat the Browns.
This is really a toss-up game for me because Cleveland has a very good defense. They were in the game for the most part against Dallas last week, but what it really came down to is their offense necessarily couldn't make the plays. Not their full offense, but more so Deshaun Watson. Now, albeit the Jags don't have the same level of defense that the Cowboys have, they did still play very well against the Miami team last week that is explosive and has weapons. I'm going to go with the Jaguars as well just because I haven't seen anything from Deshaun Watson in Cleveland up until this point to show that he can help the team win some games. So I'm going to go with the Jags, but this is really a toss-up because the Browns have a very solid overall team. It just really boils down to the quarterback, honestly.
I like being different. I'm going with the Browns. I just think that as much as I don't believe in Deshaun Watson, I don't believe coming off of these allegations is crazy too. But I don't believe that Deshaun Watson is going to be worse this week than he was last week. Last week was egregious. And also the play calling was egregious as well. Not a lot of their plays were even past the line of scrimmage. Like, it's just like, you have no trust in the guy. You got to throw something downfield, especially if you're going to be trailing in these games because your offense is so bad. So I'm going to go with the Browns here ultimately. I really don't know why. I believe in their defense, I feel like, but their offense just has to be kind of mid, and I feel like the defense can carry them. So I'm going to go with the Browns, unfortunately. Now, next, guys, we got a bonus question. And I added this one, just because, coming off the Brown stuff and things like that, I think it's a great, topic just to go around, get everybody's opinion. Is Deshaun Watson a worse person or a football player? B, which one do you have? Which one is he worse at?
Guys, this is getting awful personal. Yeah, I gotta, man. From what I'm hearing, I gotta go with Person because he still did go 5-1 in the games he started last year, even though he looked super mid and sometimes sub mid. Off the field, it just looks like it's a never-ending cycle for him. Like I don't know if it's irony. I don't know if it's divine intervention. I don't know what you want to call it, but I don't know. He lost his reputation, his career all at once, and he plays for the Browns. So it's like that's can't do two negatives, make a positive there because there's three negatives. You know what I mean? So I mean, if this year doesn't work out for him, they can't trade him because his contract's too big. Like it's possible he's not in the league next year if it's really, really bad. But I think he'll find himself a little on the football field just because he's got too good of a team around him, talent wise. So he's probably a worse person.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Person as well. I just feel like it's kind of hard to factor into football with just everything he has going on around him and things of that nature. Just some of that stuff, it's just diabolical, man. I really don't know how else to put it. Like, just some of the stuff is just, if you've seen it, but like it's just so graphic and descriptive. It's just like it's sick. It's sick. Yeah. So it's hard to even factor into football when you read, what you can read online. Obviously, none of us are like in the criminal justice field. We don't know what's going on with that. But just from what I've seen, I gotta say Person for sure. I don't even know how I can think about football with a sick.
He's playing like a guilty man. I'll add that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's like something on his conscience because it's like this isn't the same person we saw in like going up 24-0 on the Chiefs. So yeah, I agree to that point, B. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go Person.
I have to agree, bro. Yeah, the timing is just crazy, bro. Like it's just like you play like that, and then another allegation comes out, bro. Like I thought we were done with this. Like it's just crazy for there to be more allegations, bro. It's wild, bro. So yeah, and again, like B said, he is playing like a guilty man, which is, that's why I'm like, I don't know why I picked him this week, but we'll kind of just see how it goes. But I think he's definitely a worse person at this point. All right, next up, we can kind of just keep moving on here. We got the 49ers. So next up, we could keep moving on, but they actually got a win against the Bengals last week, so we will actually take the time to go around. Congrats to the Patriots for getting their first win of the season. They are 1-0 and undefeated. So B, talk to me. Do you have them winning against the Seahawks this week?
I thought about this for quite a while, and the Seahawks didn't look that good against the Broncos. Not gonna lie, I was worried they were gonna lose for a minute, but they treated Bo Nix like a rookie QB, and he ended up making those bad mistakes. Geno Smith's so mid. I feel like it's hard to predict whether they're gonna win or lose with this guy. But I'm gonna go with the Seahawks just because. I think the Bengals could, like I said, lose to anybody in week one. Just looking at how these past few seasons have gone, it seems like they could lose to a high school team in week one. They're never ready to go when the season starts. So I can't give the Patriots, that much credit for beating them, even though it was a big upset. I think the Seahawks are a little bit of a better team than Patriots. And if they lose a game like this, they can't really be thinking about a potential wild card spot. So I think there's more urgency for Seattle to win.
Yeah, I got Seattle as well. The Patriots, I do give them credit for their win against the Bengals last week, but at the same time, the Bengals offense didn't really contribute much to the game. Their defense held them to 16 points, which in today's NFL is like an excellent game from your defense. So the Bengals offensively just didn't really show up. The Seahawks have a strong defense. Like you said, Geno Smith is up and down, so this could maybe be one of those up weeks for him. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks. But the Patriots have a strong defense, so it can be close. But I think Seahawks, just off their talent, may prevail in there.
Ultimately, I'm going to go with the Seahawks, but I see a way in which the Patriots can win this game. I mean, Kenneth Walker is not 100% healthy right now, and he looked really good in their win last week. So their run game may not be as effective. And then again, there's always a question mark with Geno Smith. Though I did see him rip off a touchdown run last week where I was like, who was that? Because I didn't actually see the snap or anything. I just kind of looked up and saw somebody running the end zone. I'm like, who was that? Someone was like, Geno Smith. I was like, huh? He rushed like that? So that was kind of cool. But I don't know if he has that consistently, but it'd be nice to see this week. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Seahawks, but I see a way the Patriots could win. And Ramondre Stevenson looked really good last week as well. So next up, a team that didn't look very good this last week, the Jets, man, going up against the Titans. Titans have a lot of talent, but will they be able to put it together and get a dub against the Jets?
See, the way in which the Titans lost that game to the Bears, where their defense literally gave up nothing, has to be so demoralizing. Caleb Williams only threw for 93 yards. I just don't know how you come back in a season like that. I know it's week 1, but that's hard. That's gut wrenching. That is gut wrenching. And the Titans, like we discussed in previous episodes, they kind of have like a bunch of like mid players on their team. I don't know how that all works out, and I don't think Will Levis is going to be that good of a quarterback in the NFL. I just don't think, with all the quarterbacks we have, I don't think there's enough room for him to be one of the good ones. And I think the Jets, people can say they look concerning last week on both sides of the ball against the Niners, but it's the Niners, for Christ's sakes. Like, I feel like the Niners have dominated every team in football over the years besides the Chiefs and Ravens the couple times they've played them. So, I mean, you're not going to do well against the Niners, no matter who you are, for 29 of the 32 teams. So I'm going to go with the Jets here. I think Aaron Rodgers gets his first actual full game win as a member of the New York Jets.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Jets as well. For the Titans to lose a game where your defense doesn't allow a touchdown, that's pretty insane. And I think the Jets defense, that was kind of an outlier performance for them last week. I think they'll bounce back in a big way against the Titans. And I also like Garrett Wilson to maybe get in the end zone this week. He's clearly Aaron Rodgers' top target. Outside of him and Breece Hall, nobody on the Jets offense really scares me. But the Jets overall have a good team here. Starting 0-2 in the division they're in with the Bills and Dolphins there as well. That's not ideal for the Jets. So I think they'll win this week against the Titans.
Allen Lazard doesn't scare you? No, I'm playing. So the Jets, man, the only reason that I was kind of disappointed in the team was because, one, the game was not close. And the game wasn't close in which a game where Trent Williams had to leave the game early. And another game where CMC wasn't on the field. He didn't even play. Y'all let Jordan Mason destroy you. And your defense is supposed to be your strong suit. So it's just like it's a little bit concerning. And then Aaron Rodgers, obviously, he hasn't looked good in like a year and a half at this point. He had a full season with the Packers the last time we saw him where he wasn't that good. In his last 10 games, he hasn't thrown over 250 yards. It's getting concerning at this point. And what he said to the fans this week? He was like, if you're not on the bandwagon, if you're on the bandwagon and you leave, don't come back. And I just think it's crazy for you to be have as much chutzpah as you have right now after you just lost like that. So, I hope they bounce back, honestly, because the expectations are sky high on this team. So, yeah, ultimately I have the Jets. Next up, we got a divisional matchup here. Dono, this is your squad, so I'm going to let you go ahead and take this one now. Pause.
Come on. So, this game right here, man, we know how the Giants looked last week, but at the same time, just being a Washington fan, I've seen how Daniel Jones has looked against Washington throughout his career. If there's one game Daniel Jones probably marks on his calendar, it has to be Washington. That's what got him his extension. It has to be because football I've seen from Daniel Jones outside of playing against the Commanders has been flat out awful. But with that being said, I like what I saw from Jayden Daniels last week. 2 rushing touchdowns, almost 100 yards rushing. I think he could very well be solid. I think he could get Terry McLaurin more involved. But I like the Commanders at home to win this week. I'm not really – I don't know. It's just something about Washington this week. I think Jayden Daniels will step up and win us a game here. But Daniel Jones, he scares me because for whatever reason, bro, against Washington, Daniel Jones will put up 250 yards, pass for 2 touchdowns, might run for another 50, run for 1. He just turns into a different man. But hopefully that changes now. So I'm going to go with Washington.
Well, side note, want to talk about circling games. There's a guy named Dak Prescott who circles these two teams twice a year every year because I think the reason he was number 2 in MVP voting is because he had like a combined total of 16 touchdowns against these two teams in the 4 matchups last year. So, Dak always stat pats when he plays these two teams, side note. But I know you know that, Mitch, and I know you know that too, Dono. So sorry for saying what doesn't need to be said, but I just totally thought about that when Dono said Daniel Jones circles this matchup. But, God, this is a tough one. It kind of reminds me of like when the Giants played the Commanders in week 2 a few years ago, and it came down to like a field goal that the Commanders missed, but the Giants were offsides, and then they made it the second time. I feel like it's going to be like a game like that could go either way. And for whatever reason, like you said, Daniel Jones seems to have his best games at Washington. I was close to picking Washington, but I have a lot of friends who are Washington fans who say they're going to lose this week, so I have to take them into consideration because they know their team best. So I'm going to go with the Giants in what I call the battle of the bald head coaches right here, Dan Quinn and Brian Dable. Brian Dable brings the offense. Dan Quinn brings the defense. Ironically, the defensive coach didn't have any defense last week against the Buccaneers, and the offensive coach, Brian Dable, didn't have any offense against the Vikings last week. So I think it's going to be a messy game. Just by the flip of a coin, I'm going to go with the Giants to allow Mitch to have no opportunity to be different on this one because he's got to side with somebody.
Man, this one's really close actually because both teams are just anything can happen, especially against each other. So it's like I'm gonna go with the Commanders. I'm gonna go with the Commanders, and I'm gonna stick with it. Now, it's these types of games in a season that make me want to question picking your team again. So I need a win this week for the Commanders. I think Jaden Daniel, he looked pretty good in his last in their first game of the season. Terry McLaurin was not used at all, so I think that he's due for a bounce back game.
For sure.
I just like the weapons better, for the Commanders. I feel like there's more there to be worked with than the Giants. Even though I think Malik Neighbors might have a pretty good week as well because the Commanders, their back too it's bad. It's just bad. So I'm going with the Commanders. Next up, the Rams and the Cardinals. This could be a high scoring affair. Puka Nacua already injured last week. That was probably one of the bigger injuries that we had. So, B, who do you have in this matchup?
I just know ever since Sean McVay's been the head coach of the Rams, they've absolutely owned the Cardinals, and even more so when Kyler Murray was drafted by the Cardinals. I still remember that playoff game from a few years ago when I think Kyler Murray threw the pick six to Aaron Donald from his own end zone or something like that. I know they don't have an AD anymore, but I just feel like the Rams play with a different type of confidence when they play the Cardinals. And Cooper with Puka Nacua out, you fantasy owners who have Cooper Kupp are very lucky men and women. Whoever has Cooper Kupp on their team, he's gonna get those yards. He might even get some yak. I guarantee you, he has his best season since his year where he should have won MVP because he was clearly the best player in the league that year, that postseason, that Super Bowl, whatever, etc. Matthew Stafford loves throwing the ball to one receiver. You saw when he had Calvin Johnson in Detroit. You saw it with Puka being the primary, receiver last year because Cooper was hurt. But he loves himself some Cooper Kupp. We've seen it for too long. He's going to give Cooper Kupp the rock, and they're just going to continue owning the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams as well. They honestly could have beat Detroit last week. I was surprised they kept it as close as they did, especially being that they were in Detroit. So being in Arizona this week, they're a little closer to home. I think they'll probably get a good Rams following out there. I agree with you. Cooper Kupp with Puka hurt will look like the was it 2020 or 2019?
2021.
Yeah, the 21 Cooper Kupp where he got the triple crown. So I think the Rams will win this week. And I don't think they want to start 0-2 either, especially in a division with the 49ers. So, and then you still got Seattle, and I like the Rams.
I'm going to pick the Rams as well. Then the Cardinals, while they have a lot of weapons and whatnot, I just feel like the Rams have just more that I like there. So I'm just going to ultimately go with LA. Next up, B, it's going to be your team. The Russell Wilson comeback revenge game that never was.
Well, I'll tell you what. I feel like from doing this with you guys for a few years, the games I don't pick the Steelers are ones they usually win, but I'm not that type of guy. Like as a passionate fan, think we should not have problems on the defensive side of the football getting after a rookie QB in his second game. Bo Nix struggled last week. He might make some tweaks this week. Sean Payton's a good coach. I know he's 3-0 against Mike Tomlin, which kind of scares me, but I do remember he had Drew Brees for all those games. I think the Steelers should win this game. I know, it's on the West Coast. Be flying across the country could spell a little trouble, but when you think of TJ Watt on one side and a rookie QB on the other side, I think TJ Watt's going to get after that. He seems to be, honestly, I often believe he's the second best player in the game after Mahomes. Just the way he impacts the game, his consistency, all that stuff. Unfortunately, he's a defensive player, not a quarterback, so impact to wins and losses he can't control as much. But boy, is that guy? In the words of Stephen A., is that brother special? He is. I got to go with the Steelers here. As long as Justin Fields takes those snaps and doesn't fumble the ball, just plays within the game, doesn't force anything, the Steelers should win this game.
Yeah, go ahead, Donald. My bad.
I'm gonna go with the Steelers as well. I agree with you. T.J. Watt just completely takes over a game. Your offense did nothing last week, and you still found a way to win against an Atlanta offense that's not bad at all. Better than the Denver Broncos offense, if we're being honest here. So I think your defense will be what gives you all the win this week. I think your offense will get into the end zone. Maybe Najee Harris or something like that, a running back, I would say. Especially with Justin Fields out there, that rushing aspect of your offense should be solid. I do have some concerns with the passing game. George Pickens looks solid, but Steelers at the end of the day are well coached and they're going to play defense. So I think that's what's going to get them past Denver this week.
Yeah, I think the Broncos, actually both sides of the ball are pretty questionable for the Broncos, but I will say that their offense is probably the biggest question mark right now, just because they have the rookie QB, and the Steelers, like what you're going to get from them every game is defense at the very least. So I feel like it's just a bad matchup for the Broncos. I'm going to go with the Steelers. I feel like we do not have to really take a lot of time for this one, especially the way that the Bengals looked last week. Even though I think they will put up a good fight, I don't think it'll be close. How about you, B?
I mean, I think, in September, you got to call them the September Bengals, not the Cincinnati Bengals, because they are always a terrible team in September. And not really when you're terrible in September, you probably don't want to be playing the Chiefs. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little closer this week for the Bengals. Usually they always do show up against the Chiefs. I think the last time they played in Cincinnati in the regular season, the Bengals won that one, albeit they're different teams now. I'm not sure if T. Higgins is back this week. I honestly think the Bengals could win this game, but it is, like you said, be early in the season, and the Bengals usually get off to slow starts, and then they get better as the season goes on. Mahomes, he's the ultimate competitor, so I don't think he's going to take this game lightly. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well, but I think it'll be a very close game. I think it can come down to whoever has the ball last, final field goal type of thing. The Bengals won't just come in there and get blown out and not show up.
Yeah, I think that the Bengals are – I don't know, man. Something's just wrong there. And but, yeah, T. Higgins, it doesn't look like he's going to play this week. He has yet to practice this week, so that's pretty interesting in itself. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Next up, the Bears and the Texans, the battle of the young QBs, the best rookie QB from last year, maybe of all time, and then who's supposed to be the best rookie QB this year. So, B, who's winning this matchup?
I love this matchup, and I would not be surprised if the Bears give them a hell of a game, but I'm going to go with the Texans, ultimately just because, it still is a work in progress with the Bears. They were lucky to come out of week one with a win last week. Caleb Williams only passed for 93 yards. That is, absolutely crazy. So in my one league where I have both Caleb Williams and C.J. Stroud, I will be starting C.J. Stroud this week, even though the Bears clearly do have a good defense. Got to trust the now veteran QB, sophomore QB, I'm sorry, over the freshman. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go with the Texans here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Texans as well. Like you said, the Bears, albeit they have talent offensively, they're still a work in progress, as we can see. I wasn't expecting them to come out and not score a touchdown, but I think they will score this week. But the Texans are definitely the better team here. They're at home. They have a lot of talent. I think the Bears won't be able to get past on just not producing anything offensively this week. So I think they'll be a little better. But the Texans, I just think they have different goals, different aspirations in mind. So I like the Texans this week. And I think Nico Collins gets him in. You saw he had that rapport with CJ, even though Diggs got the touchdown catches last week. But I think Nico gets in this week.
I love that part about Nico at the end there, man. He has a home in my fantasy team, so we'll be looking forward to those points. The Texans are going to win this matchup for sure. I don't know if it'll be particularly close, even though, Caleb Williams threw for 93 yards last week. I can't expect a whole lot this week, if I'm being honest. It looks like Roma Dunze is not going to play, and also Keenan Allen tweaked something last week as well, so I think he's questionable. So we will see what happens with that. And last but not least, we have the Battle of the Birds on Monday. The Falcons and the Eagles. B, talk to me.
Man, I don't know if you guys realize this, but I got a question. Why does the NFL hate Kirk Cousins so much? So the last 3 years, it's the third year in a row he's playing the Eagles in Philadelphia on a primetime game. Did you guys realize that? So like 2 years ago was Monday Night Football. Last year it was the Thursday Night Football game of week 2. Both years Vikings played at Philadelphia and lost. And this year they're having to play at Philadelphia on Monday Night Football. And you know Kirk Cousins is not a primetime quarterback.
Yeah.
And they're putting him against the Eagles all these years. Like, enough said right there. The Falcons, I said the only reason I thought they were going to beat the Steelers in week 1 is because their week 2 matchup was at Philadelphia and their week 3 matchup is at home against the Chiefs. So I was like, if they're really going to win their division this year, they cannot afford to start 0-3. I hate to be the guy who called it, but I said the Buccaneers were going to win that division, and it's for reasons like this. You cannot start 0-3 if you're the Falcons. And, you know, Kirk Cousins, I never thought there'd be a chance he finds the bench to Michael Penix in year 1, but after that 0-3 start, he better turn things around fast because they already know they're going to start 0-3.
Yeah, I like the Eagles in this one as well. As you said, Kirk Cousins in prime time is just not it. You're going to Philly on a Monday night. It's their home opener. That crowd is going to be as raunchy as ever. I just don't really know what else to say. I like the Eagles to win this one. I think the Falcons will look better offensively. Philly's defense isn't the greatest, even though they have some talent. But I don't think the Falcons have an answer for just the whole Eagles offense. You got Saquon, who had a great debut in Philly. You got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, who didn't even score. He still had a very solid game as well. So the Eagles look like they're getting things back clicking offensively. They're at home. I like Philly.
Yeah, definitely taking the Eagles here. The Falcons are another team that people had a lot of high expectations for, especially in week 1, and then just, laid an egg. So, yeah, ultimately going to go with the Eagles. I think they just have the better team. And, I mean, it is a good running back matchup, though, with Saquon and Bijan. So that'd be kind of cool. But that is going to do it for our week 2 picks and predictions. Does anybody else have anything to add? All righty. Well, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that type of stuff, and let us know your picks and predictions for week 2. And we will catch you guys next week.
Yes, sir.